Welcome back to The New Life, A Better Way to Health, Part 9. This seminar is not meant to replace medical advice. It is not intended to provide personalized medical advice in any way. The material presented in this seminar is for general educational and informational purposes only. Welcome back to week 9 of Going from Sickness to Health, learning the new life principles and making them habits. Hopefully you are learning and retaining, but more importantly, you have actually been making these principles into healthy habits that'll give you long life and quality of life. In this lesson, we will learn about fresh air as our next principle of health. We want to accomplish two main things in this lesson. One, we want to learn about fresh air as a principle. Number two, we also want to clear the air so we can get the maximum benefits for our health. We don't have to think about the act of breathing, but we do need to be intentional about what we breathe and how we breathe. We know we need to breathe to live. However, few make an effort to breathe in good air and not bad, and it's just as important to know how to get rid of bad air. Both are essential to health, as we will discover in this presentation. Before we go on, let's review the cause of sickness and disease. Sickness and disease are an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. As a result of watching this session, I'm sure we'll all be able to think of an illness that will come from violating the principle of fresh air. The air we breathe is comprised of basically three primary elements: 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% argon. So we see that air is mostly nitrogen. The human body can go 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, but after just 3 minutes of depriving the body of air, our cells will begin to die and death of the entire body organism will soon follow. Fortunately, We don't have to think about breathing to supply the body with air as with water and food. It is an involuntary act. Point number one, you can live days without water, weeks without food, but only minutes without air.
Many of us have hundreds of things on our minds at any moment, often struggling to keep track of everything we need to do. But fortunately, there's one important thing we don't have to worry about remembering: breathing. When you breathe, you transport oxygen to the body's cells to keep them working, and clear your system of the carbon dioxide that this work generates. Breathing, in other words, keeps the body alive. So how do we accomplish this crucial and complex task without even thinking about it? The answer lies in our body's respiratory system. Like any machinery, it consists of specialized components and requires a trigger to start functioning. Here, the components are the structures and tissues making up the lungs, as well as the various other respiratory organs connected to them. And to get this machine moving, we need the autonomic nervous system, our brain's unconscious control center for the vital functions. As the body prepares to take in oxygen-rich air, this system sends a signal to the muscles around your lungs, flattening the diaphragm and contracting the intercostal muscles between your ribs to create more space for the lungs to expand. Air then whooshes into your nose and mouth, through your trachea and into the bronchi that split at the trachea's base, with one entering each lung. Like tree branches, these small tubes divide into thousands of tinier passages, called bronchioles. It's tempting to think of the lungs as huge balloons, but instead of being hollow, they're actually spongy inside, with the bronchioles running throughout the parenchyma tissue. At the end of each bronchiole is a little air sac called an alveolus, wrapped in capillaries full of red blood cells containing special proteins called hemoglobin. The air you've breathed in fills these sacs, causing the lungs to inflate. Here is where the vital exchange occurs. At this point, the capillaries are packed with carbon dioxide, and the air sacs are full of oxygen. But due to the basic process of diffusion, the molecules of each gas want to move to a place where there is a lower concentration of their kind. So as oxygen crosses over to the capillaries, the hemoglobin grabs it up, while the carbon dioxide is unloaded into the lungs. The oxygen-rich hemoglobin is then transported throughout the body via the bloodstream. But what do our lungs do with all that carbon dioxide? Exhale it, of course. The autonomic nervous system kicks in again, causing the diaphragm to ball up and the intercostal muscles to relax, making the chest cavity smaller and forcing the lungs to compress. The carbon dioxide-rich air is expelled, and the cycle begins again. So that's how these spongy organs keep our bodies efficiently supplied with air. Lungs inhale and exhale between 15 and 25 times a minute, which amounts to an incredible 10,000 liters of air each day. That's a lot of work, but don't sweat it. Your lungs and your autonomic nervous system have got it covered.
The animation in this video showed how we take oxygen into our lungs, sending it throughout our bodies to every cell. But it also showed how we get rid of the waste or carbon dioxide. It is a wonderful symbiotic relationship between humans' need for oxygen, which the trees in the forest play a role, and the trees' need of carbon dioxide, which we play a role in supplying. More later on how the trees play a major role in keeping us healthy. A fire needs three things in order to burn: fuel, oxygen, and heat. Your metabolism is similar. In order for your body to burn the fuel, it needs sufficient doses of oxygen. Breathe deep when you are exercising and ensure that there is plenty of clean air circulating in your home, especially in your bedroom at night when you're sleeping. Let's take a look at how something as simple as deep breathing can help in overcoming disease. Point number 2. By deep breathing, we can lower high blood pressure. By doing deep breathing exercises where we take in good inspiration of fresh air and release carbon dioxide, we can actually lower stress and high blood pressure. Now let's take a look at this next video clip that shows how some doctors are finding success with this simple treatment.
High blood pressure. So many Americans will face the problem. 1 in 3 adults. The health care costs $76 billion a year, and there are the lives lost to heart attack and stroke. But what if a simple idea could dramatically lower your blood pressure? One doctor says he has an idea, and the numbers. Here's David Wright.
Whether it's the stress of the morning commute or of a high-powered job.
To me, stress is something that needs to be countered. It needs to be conquered.
Being a mom can be hugely stressful too, especially if you're out of work.
The mommy and the breadwinner.
Pretty much, and the bread is scarce these days.
Different people, different stresses. But Mike Brogy and Sandra Butler deal with their stresses the same way.
Imagine a beautiful hiking path
With a technique prescribed by their cardiologist.
You know, we all know about diet and exercise, but very few of us emphasize stress reduction. And stress is, I think, the key to all of it.
Dr. John Kennedy developed the 15-minute heart cure.
Okay, relax.
A set of breathing techniques you can do anywhere, anytime. No drugs, no surgery. Reducing your blood pressure with brain power alone. His patients tend to show measurable improvement in as little as 2 weeks.
My blood pressure is stable. It used to hover around 170/90. It's now pretty stable at 120/80.
Stress boosting your blood pressure is a major contributor to heart attacks. It triggers the body's fight or flight response. The brain prompts the release of adrenaline, the blood thickens, the heart pumps faster, putting strain on weakened arteries.
And boom.
And boom, it blocks blood flow and you're dead.
Dr. Kennedy says his regimen of focused breathing is the same technique professional athletes and others use.
It's like how Sully landed the plane on the Hudson River. It's how, Kobe Bryant hits the final shot with no time left.
Used every day with everyday stresses, he claims can save your life.
This is actually ancient wisdom that's being proven by modern science.
Healing the heart by finding the quiet in the midst of life's storm. David Wright, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Can our breathing affect our blood pressure? Let's see if a doctor has any research on how deep breathing can lower blood pressure.
Hi, I'm Dr. Oz with a simple tip to lower your blood pressure in just 30 seconds. Breathe deeply. In one study, that simple act helped lower the volunteer's systolic blood pressure by as much as 10 millimeters per mercury. The study involved nearly 20,000 Japanese adults with either normal or high blood pressure. Some of the participants sat alone quietly doing a breathing exercise that involved taking just 6 deep breaths over the course of 30 seconds. The rest just sat quietly, doing nothing for the exact same amount of time. Both activities were good for the participants' vitals, but the deep breather's blood pressure dropped much more dramatically. Deep breathing helps calm your sympathetic nervous system to bring your blood pressure down. So the next time you feel your blood pressure is climbing, just sit down, close your eyes, and take 6 deep breaths. To learn more ways to boost your health, watch all of our smart tips right here.
Point number 3. Negatively charged ions help lower blood pressure and stress levels, improve cell enzyme function, and increase cell growth and repair. What are negatively charged ions and where can I find them? Point number 4. Fresh air, especially near the ocean, in the forest or mountains, near a waterfall or after a thunderstorm, is full of negatively charged ions, which sanitize, deodorize, and even revitalize the air. Negatively charged ions are found near the ocean or where there is lots of moving water, the forest, the mountains, or right after a thunderstorm. Point number 5. Many trees have a chemical that they secrete called phytoncide, which protects it from insects but reduces our stress levels among other health benefits. Here's a word you may have never heard of, phytoncide. The Japanese have done quite a bit of research in the area of phytoncides and how going out in nature has healing effects. Let's get a little more info on this little known health benefit found out in nature.
Can you hear it? The song of life as sung by the forest. Can you feel it? The sweet fragrant smells of the forest. Now, the smells and songs of the forest. Phytoncide. Phytoncide is a natural antibacterial agent created by plants and trees of the forest to protect themselves from unwanted parasites and other pests. Phytoncide has been found to reduce stress and other illnesses common to modern man, promising a happier and healthier life. Phytoncide is composed of over 80 natural substances, and one of its components, terpene, is responsible for lowering the stress hormone cortisol, which thereby increases the activity of the NK white blood cells and eliminates stress, helping us feel refreshed and clear-headed. The NK white blood cells, also known as natural killer cells, then circulate throughout the body with red blood cells to help improve bodily functions. Another reason why Phytoncide is being hailed as a gift from nature is how Phytoncide affects our bodies once it's absorbed, much like when we're in a forest. The NK cells become highly active and increase our immunities to fight cancerous cells. So what exactly are NK cells? In our bodies, we have three types of white blood cells: the T cells, the B cells, and the NK cells. T cells and B cells are unable to fend off cancer cells at their initial stages. The reason is because it takes quite a bit of time before it can recognize cancerous antigens. However, the NK cells, also known as natural killer cells, attack the cancerous cells without identifying the special antigens first. In another study conducted in Japan, results have shown that a simple stroll through the forest can increase NK cell count as well as increase their activity.
Researchers have confirmed that forest bathing in phytoncides, compounds released from plants, does bring health benefits.
But the effects and intensity may vary depending on what type of forest you visit.
All over this nature preserve, you can see travelers taking naps, even stringing up hammocks in public spaces. Just what is it that makes visitors to the Shito Nature Education Area so tired?
Conifer trees release this compound that our analysis shows is made up of limonene or terpene. In animal tests, these compounds have proven to have a hypnotic effect.
But not all phytoncides are created equal. The Formosan gum trees at Awanda National Forest produce a compound that, instead of putting you to sleep, makes you more alert. This is because the compounds released by different plants have a range of different effects on the human body.
The concentration of phytoncides outdoors is generally not all that high, but when you enter a forest, you inhale these compounds that bring beneficial effects.
Isn't it amazing? This is why we must be intentional about seeking fresh air outdoors. With so much pollution in the cities, it is difficult to experience the true benefits of fresh air. In nature, whether at the beach or in the forest, the air has concentrated levels of negatively charged air. Point number 6. The shallower our breathing, the less oxygen reaches the brain, and harder it is to focus our thoughts. With proper breathing techniques, we can lower stress and high blood pressure. Many people don't know the proper way to breathe. Before we share breathing techniques, let's first look at the negative consequences of not breathing properly. Due to the fact that 70 to 90% of all hospital visits are stress-related, the vast majority of people are stressed out and therefore are very shallow breathers. When we take shallow breaths under stress, we don't take in the necessary oxygen, but we hardly notice what we're doing. However, just because we don't notice it doesn't mean our overall circulation isn't affected. To understand when we're experiencing unhealthy breathing, let's compare and contrast the two. These are signs of unhealthy breathing. When you breathe faster, not during exercise. Or when you're sighing more, that's an irregular form of breathing. Oral breathing through the mouth. or noticeable breathing that's loud, or even upper chest breathing. Now here are the signs of healthy breathing: slower breathing, regular breathing, breathing through your nose, softer breathing, or breathing through the diaphragm. Point number 7. Proper breathing techniques include the use of the diaphragm. This results in abdominal expansion rather than shoulder movement during inhalation. In good deep breathing, the diaphragm goes down and the belly goes out, not in. Point number 8. Some of the many symptoms caused by living in an oxygen-poor environment include headache, drowsiness, and digestive problems. Point number 9. 4 tips for improving indoor air quality include regularly changing air filters, opening windows, potted green plants, and using a good quality ionizer. Ionizers are sophisticated air filters that add ions to the atmosphere, clearing the air of indoor pollutants. Anyone's lives truly lived consist of work, sunshine, exercise, soap, plenty of fresh air, and a happy, contented spirit. Lily Langtry. As we conclude this session, we hope that you will have a joyful and contented spirit, which is the good sign of whole health. We look forward to session 10, our final session together, where we will study the principle of educating yourself. Remember to try to go places where the air is fresh and clean and breathe in all that is good. Thank you for attending this session on fresh air. And until next time, always remember, your health is your choice.